Okay, hello. So UNET is the Norwegian NRM, and as you heard, I will be presenting an application that we have developed called Stagio. So this presentation will be divided into two parts. So I will first give a general introduction to what the application is and how it's been designed. And then I will do a live presentation of, so hopefully everything will work. Okay, first of all, what is Stagio? Originally it was designed as a web front-end for to look at NetFlow based reports. But as the development continued on it, we saw that it was generic enough to be used for almost all types of network statistics, or even other types of statistics. As long as you collect data at regular intervals, it's a good chance that you can use Stagio to display it. It's released under a GPL license, so you can download it and try it for yourself. And it's starting to become popular. Right now we have more than 100 people on the public mailing list. And we have several reports of successful installations. So what you see here is a typical screenshot of a report in Stagio. So in this case, you see an IP protocol NetFlow report that shows the most commonly used IP protocols during 1 week. I'll go back to more details about the user interface later. Okay, first of all, what's the main features in Stagio? Well, at least in our opinion, it has an easy-to-use web front-end, where you can look at reports, either text-based or you can plot graphs. It has support for different types of network statistics. You can use NetFlow, which was originally designed for, and it also mostly focus on NetFlow in this presentation because of the large amount of data in NetFlow. That's the most challenging to handle. We also have a SNMP. It's still a little bit beta testing for the latest contribution, but it will soon be put into full production. And we have something called MPing, which is a round-trip delay measurement tool that actually we have had running for 10 years, but now we have been moved it to Stagio as a front end. And in Stagio, it's relatively easy to add new reports. Also, the front end is based on templates, so that if you want to add new statistics or new reports, you don't have to do any coding. You can just write a short template. And for the backend, you can usually write simple plugins to get new reports. And we also have access control in the application, so that you can restrict access to reports based on observation point or a specific type of report. Okay, this shows the basic design of Stagio. So we have, as I already mentioned, one or more backends for collecting the data. The data is then inserted into an SQL database, where we also have several maintenance scripts that aggregates the data from, for example, hourly reports up to daily, up to weekly, and so on. And then you have the web front end to use to look at the reports and to browse them. The backend collects the raw data, and it's important to realize that we do not insert the raw data into databases because that won't scale. So what you do is that you have the backend process the raw data and then insert the more high-level reports into the database. So for NetFlow, it can, for example, be the most commonly used IP protocols. It can be the top most commonly used IP addresses that has the most traffic volume or the most flows and so on. If you use the SNMP backend, it can be the router CPU load, the temperature in the router, or some other values. But we also try to put some effort into making the backend robust. For example, in the NetFlow backend, we use flow tools for generating the reports. One problem with flow tools is that, especially during DOS attack, flow tools sometimes just locks up and never finishes. So the backend scripts, we have some wrappers around flow tools that automatically detects these deadlocks and then kills flow tools, so that you can get the other reports instead of just waiting for this one to finish. And the same goes with the database. As if you have to do some maintenance on the database, you can simply just shut it down or take it offline. The backends will then just store the raw data to disk, and when the database becomes available, you will automatically insert the reports that are missing. This also goes for aggregation, so if the aggregation script failed because the database was unavailable, next time you run the aggregation, you will automatically aggregate the missing time periods. As already mentioned, we have also report templates to define how to display a report. So, for example, if you have a value as a number in the database, how should you display this number? Should it be a bit per second, packet per second, percentage, temperature, and so on? So you can, in the template, you just define how to present all the numbers. You can also have multiple views for the same report type. Because one problem is that you have a lot of information for one specific report type. So it's too much to display for everything at one time. So you can have different views. You can have, for example, a simple overview that, for example, in NetFlow, you can have just a percentage of from total traffic for flows, packets, and octets, and so on. Or you can look at more details where you get more statistical numbers, like the average values and standard deviation and so on. We also have something called report transformations. This means that you can have one report can be displayed in different ways. For example, if you have a source destination type of report, for example, source destination IP address or source destination AS, then that report can be displayed either as a table or as a matrix. And for both of these transformations, you can have different views to display different types of data. And in the next version, we hope to be, also in the next version of Stager will most likely be released in December. Then we'll also be able to specify where to display data from, also to where to get the data. So right now, you can only use it to display data already in the database. But we will also, soon, the next version, will support displaying reports that gets the data directly from raw NetFlow, raw data, for example, raw NetFlow files. This will be, of course, be a lot slower, but it can be useful to do detailed analysis, for example, in security incidents. So if you still have the raw NetFlow files, you can then use the database, so the reports already in database, to get a general idea of what has happened. And you can go into the raw NetFlow dates to get the real details. Okay, I won't go into any details about this diagram, but this shows the basic schema for the database. The only thing I will mention is that to be able to handle the large amount of data, we split up each report type and each time resolution into a separate table. So, for example, in this example, you can see the IP type of service NetFlow report. So you have one table for the hourly statistics and one table for the daily statistics. And you will also have one table for weekly and monthly and so on. And the only limitations you have on these tables are that they have to be connected to a specific time period and a specific observation point. Besides that, you can add as many columns as you want, as many data types as you want. So that only depends on the backend you're using. Okay, now we have a general idea of what Stager does and how it works, but what do you need to run it? Well, we only develop and use Stager on Linux, but we have several reports of successful installations on BSD as well, because we use Perl as a backend and PHP in the front end, so that shouldn't be any problem. Of course, you need Perl with the database interface module. You need a PostgreSQL server, an HTTP server with PHP, and we used the Smarty template engine and a library called JPGraph to create graphs. And of course, you need Stager itself. And that's available if you go to software.unet.no, and you can download and try it for yourself. We'll soon show the practical demonstration of Stager, but first I will also just very quickly mention another application that we have developed called NEMO, or Network Monitor. It's a Java application that can show animated maps with network statistics, and you can read and animate data from the Stager database. So, for example, if there is a new virus that spreads in your network, that goes on, for example, on a specific port, you can then get a geographic map of your network, and you can use colors to see how, for example, the virus spreads in your network. Or you can get other values, for example, all the information in the Stager database can be animated, and you can animate it over time so that you can see how things spread. And you can zoom in, and has also support for topology. This is also freely available on the same page as the Stager is available. As I mentioned, I will mostly focus on the net flow data, since that's the most hard to handle. This shows our setup. So we have 3 flow collectors that collects the raw net flow data. So the router sends to the collector that's closest to the specific router. Currently, we collect data from 31 routers with a total of 175 interfaces. But in Stagio, we also create, of course, net flow is the incoming traffic, but we also create reports for outgoing traffic. To do that, we look at all the incoming traffic from all the other interfaces and then filter out outgoing traffic based on the destination interface. So you actually have to double this number and you find out how many interfaces you generate reports for. Most of the routers we have today are use 1-to-100 sampling, but we still have some smaller edge routers that collects everything. We collect approximately 30 gigabytes of raw net flow data per day, and during peak hours we actually have as much as 100 new entries in the database every second. But it's important to realize this is not 100 transactions, because for those of you who know the details about PostgreSQL, we use a copy from. So one entire report is one transaction. That's how we are able to handle these high amounts of data. Right now we have almost 1 year of hourly statistics. It means that the biggest tables have more than 300 million entries in a single table. And the database size is more than 550 gigabytes. We have not done any real analysis on how far we are able to scale Stagio, because it works for us in our setup, so we haven't had high priority on that yet, but it's something that we're planning on doing. But what I can say that during normal operations in this setup, we have no problem with performance, and the database is actually relatively light load on it. We have even run 2 parallel instances of Stagio on the same database server without any problems. So right now, actually, the only limit, it's not a big problem, but the normal database maintenance takes a long time because of the big size of the database. So if you want to do, so when you use vacuum and backup, it's starting to take a bit too long, actually, but it's still manageable. But both these issues is something that's supposed to have been fixed in PostgreSQL version 8. So we haven't tested it ourselves yet, but hopefully that should solve some of it. And of course, if you want to keep the database size down, you can easily configure your Stagio to not keep hourly statistics for 1 year. If you think that detailed statistics in at hourly intervals is enough to have for a couple of months, then you can start deleting the hourly statistics, but keep daily and weekly and so on. And that way you will reduce the database size quite drastically. So, okay, then I will go to a more live demonstration. Hopefully it will work on this PC. Normally this is publicly available, but just to prevent everyone from going in trying now, we have added a password on this site. So, but it will be open afterwards again. Is there network on this PC? Yeah. That's why I was hoping to use my own PC, but I've been using wireless earlier today and it was very good performance, but something is happening. Okay, but okay, I can use. Yeah, I can use mine. Yeah, that just works. So this is the main stage update. This one is open, so you can go to this one and look. And here you have screenshots and documentation, and you can also download the application. But to go, and you can just go directly to the online statistics if you click here. So this is now temporarily closed. Okay. Here you see the main setup page for the stage application. So here, up here, if you can, yeah, you can see the cursor. You can select which database you want to connect to. Right now you have NetFlow and nping, and soon we will add SNMP. It's mostly, SNMP is fully developed, it's developed and it works, but we have 10 years of SNMP statistics that we want to import, so we haven't started doing that yet. I'll just keep on the NetFlow for now. Here you can use, type in username and password to log on to Stager. And then you can use this area to select what type of report you want. So you can either get an overview report, you can list up all observation points to, for example, find out which observation point has the most TCP traffic or the most web traffic and so on. Or you can select specific observation points, multiple observation points, and we also have some bookmark capabilities in it. The reason is that the URL gets quite long if you want to just send it, so we can add us bookmark for easier links. Then you have the report types that are available. Right now I'm not logged in, so you only have a limited reports available. But if you, so you have, this time now I'm connected to NetFlow, so you have IP protocol, you have IP type of service, you have source and destination AS, you have the summary report. Also the summary report just shows the total number of flows, packets and octets that was collected during a specific time period. And then you have various multicast reports. Here we actually filter out multicast traffic and then do more analysis on it. If I now log in, I should get more reports available. As you can see, when I know that I logged in, I also got IP source destination address, and I got transport layer source and destination port, and I got multicast senders. So these are what we consider private reports that are not available for guest users. Since we just had a multicast presentation, I can select, for example, the multicast groups to show a report. Then I can select the time period I want to display for. So these are predefined time periods. So you can get, for example, the most recent hour, most recent day, yesterday, 2 days ago, last week, and so on. So I can, for example, take 2 days ago. You could also type in manually a specific date if you wanted to do that. And then you can limit the number of rows you want to display. And now that I'm showing an overview report, you can select which overview columns to display, either automatically or you can type in manually. What this means is that in this case I'm showing the multicast groups. So okay, I can actually just demonstrate instead of explaining. So what I will get with this report is the top 5 most commonly used on the arrow open. Okay, I got it. So what you have now down here is the observation points, and on top here, since I selected automatically to generate which one to display here, I get the 5 most commonly used multicast groups. If you wanted to display a specific multicast groups, you could have just manually typed in the IP addresses. And the same goes if you're looking at IP destination or source ports, you can have manually typed in the ports to display. On top here, you have some toolbars to navigate and so on. In the next version, this will be even more simplified, so you just have one single toolbar on top. First of all, you can select which. I can jump directly to other reports for the assigned time period. For example, I can go to IP protocol. So then you get IP protocol report instead. You can actually select a simple or advanced user interface. The reason we have done that is that in the advanced user interface there are so many buttons to select that people are not used to it, or just gets confused. And most of the common things are available through the simple user interface. Here you have time navigation, so you can move back and forth one day. As if you just move that, so you have tooltips on everything, so you can get information about what things means. So I just moved forward. And of course, if you go back, you have okay, what's happened now? You have to admit that most of the testing is done on the Firefox and not Mozilla, so maybe we should, not for Internet Explorer, so maybe we should do more testing here as well. These double arrows means some fast forward and fast backward. So in this case, I'm looking at daily statistics. So I'm looking at Sunday, 23rd of October. If I clicked on this one, I will jump to the previous Sunday, so 1 week back. So it's just too easy to navigate back and forth. Then, of course, you can zoom in and out. Also, I'll either zoom out to a week, or you can zoom in to a specific hour. If you want more details about a specific observation point, you can just click on the name of the observation point here. So if I click on this one, you get a list of all the available IP protocols that was seen during this time period. And of course you can sort by just clicking on the name of the various columns. Now it's sorted by bit per second in for octets, so you can also sort on flows and packet size and so on. You can also plot graphs. So here you can select which IP protocols you want to plot. For example, if I just want TCP and UDP, I select this, and then I want to plot bit per second. I can then select what kind of graph I want, for example, a line plot, area graph, pie chart, 3D pie chart, and so on. So I'll now just do a line plot, a normal line plot. And, okay, what happened there? Actually, I'm not sure. Okay, it looks like I somehow selected both bit per second and flow per second. That way it can't, then it just use normal numbers here. If I now go back, and deselect this flow per second, so I just plot bit per second. You can see that you actually have human-readable numbers on the side here, so it automatically selects the best presentation method. It's also possible to, instead of using the navigation bar up here to navigate back and forth, it's possible to just click inside the graph. So here I will just move back one day if I click on this one. You can, if you click on the top, you zoom up to 1 week, or you can zoom in to one specific hour of this day. When you, as I said, now I'm looking at 1 day of statistics, and then I use the hourly statistics to display this data. So if I zoom in, you don't have any more data that you can plot line graphs. So then you automatically switch to a pie chart graph instead.